Welcome, and thanks for tuning in to Unmanned Uncovered. This is your host, Stephen Gloss, drone subject matter expert consultant, content creator, and podcast producer for Consortiq, an industry leader in drone training and consultancy. Consortiq helps you and your organization fly drones safely. With me on today's show is Mark Bickel. Mark is a U.S. Army veteran and the UAV Department Manager for SurvTech Solutions, which is a geospatial firm headquartered in Tampa, Florida, that provides surveying, mapping, and geophysical services throughout the Southeastern United States. Mark has spent well over a decade supporting military operations as a contractor drone pilot and is the go-to man for all things drone. Mark Bickel, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. How you doing, Mark?
Doing great, Steve. How you been?
Oh, it's awesome. It's really great to catch up with you. I mean, we haven't worked together since 2016, but like hearing your voice, it brings me right back. It's really awesome.
Oh, for sure. Like we talked before, it seems like it was just yesterday.
It really does. I know it's been a wild and bumpy ride for me since 2016, and I can imagine that you've had some bumps and obstacles to push through during that time as well. Am I right?
Oh yeah, there's with anything military contracting, you end up with just a ton of different obstacles to face, and it just keeps you on your toes. And we always used to have a saying, be Gumby, because you have to be flexible with things.
Yeah, that's the key word right there. Well, before we dig into your recent history, I'm going to roll this all the way back. Let's go back to 1998 when you first joined the Army. Did you start out right away as a UAV, as a drone pilot, or did you make that transition later on?
No, actually, when I first joined straight out of high school, I went into the infantry, and my mom kind of hated that, but I had an uncle. He was a career infantry guy, and I always looked up to him. So he was kind of my inspiration to join the military in the first place. So I spent the first 3 years of my military career in the infantry.
Wow. So that 3 years then, that takes you to September 11th, right?
Pretty close. I went into the UAV AIT phase about midway through 2011. I was actually out at Fort Huachuca going through AIT for the drones while September 11th happened. That was definitely an eye-opening event for pretty much anybody, especially those that were in at the time.
Yeah, can you sort of remember what was going through your mind? Like, how did that impact your service? And like, what about your mindset as far as, like being in the Army at that point in time? What was that like?
It really, I hate to say it angered me, but, it kind of did.
Yeah.
We got attacked, and it was something that, since I was already in the service, I had already completed a tour over in Kosovo as an infantryman. So I'd already kind of seen what a combat deployment type style tour was going to be like.
Yeah.
And I was ready to go as soon as it happened, just itching to get through my training and get to a unit. And I knew we were going to end up at war with somebody.
Did you get to leave to go to like Iraq pretty soon after getting to your first unit?
When I first got to my unit, the unit that I went to was actually a detachment unit from the Fort Huachuca unit. So it wasn't actually even a fully integrated unit at the time. About 7 months after I got there to Fort Polk, Louisiana, they reactivated Alpha Company 224th Military Intelligence Company. And that was a old recon company that had been deactivated, I think decommissioned back in the 70s. And then they decided that we kind of fit the bill in order for them to reactivate that unit.
And so was it with them that you finally got to go overseas then?
Yeah, I got to the unit in February of 2002. We went through our certification process, and then first week of January 2003, we actually went to Kuwait. The war hadn't even kicked off yet. So we initially were on orders for 6-month tour to Kuwait. And then, we declared war while we were in Kuwait, and they just extended us to, they didn't really give us an end date. They just told us that, okay, you guys are extended now. And
hey guys, get comfortable.
Yeah. So I got to be part of the initial invasion, which was interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
It was different being a UAV unit as opposed to what I was accustomed to with infantry. But I think with my background in infantry, it kind of prepared me mentally more for going into a combat situation, and it helped me as a leader to kind of ensure that the rest of the people in my company that didn't have that kind of background were comfortable with going in and weren't really too sidetracked on the mental aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody appreciated your leadership and your experience there for sure. So, Mark, as I mentioned in the introduction, you spent about a decade, right? About 10 years of your life overseas in the Middle East in support of military operations as a drone pilot. Is that about the right timeline there?
Yeah, that's pretty close. I did 7 years as a contractor, pretty much back to back, just taking vacations. I was there while I was with Northrop Grumman. Prior to that, I went to Iraq for 13 months as a subcontractor to Northrop Grumman. Then about a year and a half total with while I was in the military. So yeah, pretty spot on right there with the 10 years.
Well, aside from the obviously the monetary benefits of doing that kind of work, what kept you going mentally to be able to stay in a place like that for so long? What were some of the keys to you being able to, hold out like that?
Well, I think most of it was the structure. I'm I'll say borderline OCD, so the structure and I don't want to say monotony, but the routine that we got into every day. I mean, I was the type that if I woke up late and brushed my teeth the wrong way, it kind of threw off my day. So
yeah, it was like, so you're like comfortable in like a functional Groundhogs Day essentially.
for sure, yeah, definitely. I enjoy a routine. I like things to be a certain way, and I think that was one of the things that really drew me to the overseas part and kind of kept me focused on being able to be over there and not really get complacent. And the other thing too is, you were out there with me for a year. The guys that were out there,
Oh yeah,
we had a great team out there.
yeah. It's like it really becomes like a family. It really does.
Exactly. So to me, it wasn't really that I was missing out on a lot back in the States. Granted, you have your actual family that you miss out with, and there was things that I missed out on with that. But all in all, you build a sort of camaraderie with the guys that are over there.
Yeah.
And like you said, it ends up being a family environment.
Yeah. And honestly, it's for people who have not sort of experienced that overseas, like combat environment, it's something you just can't replicate anywhere else. You really can't. That sort of that camaraderie. It's really impossible anywhere else.
And I think another big portion of that is just seeing the impact that we had, not only while I was over there as a military member, but even over there as a contractor attached to the military and providing support for the military. The things that we were able to do and the lives that we were able to save by providing the intelligence and through the different payloads that we were carrying, just the impact that we had as a unit on the overall big picture of the battle, it was very rewarding.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to think about it. Well, Mark, you spent most of your unmanned career then flying pretty much one aircraft, the Hunter. I think you also maybe spent some time at the ScanEagle. Just a couple of months ago, I learned that they had actually pulled the plug essentially from that program as the aircraft, although, it's extremely reliable, been used maybe since like the early 1980s. It just failed to match up to the capabilities of other drones that are available on the market today. Were you working with Northrop when you received that news about the program ending? And did you have like an exit strategy already in place, or did that come or sort of like a big surprise?
We kind of had a little inkling of it, probably a year in advance of when we actually got the layoff notice. Basically what happened is one department of the military, one branch of the Army handed us off to another branch, but they didn't hand off any funding to go with it.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of patched some money together and kind of put a Band-Aid in place to kind of get us going and keep us there for as long as they could.
Right.
But ultimately, about 9 months after that happened, they pulled the plug on it, like you said. Yes, I was still with Northrop at the time. I think there was about 430 of us that were currently on the program when it lost the funding for it.
Yeah.
A lot of the maintenance guys, they were able to jump over to other programs just because of their qualifications, whether they had an A&P license or just the experience that they had. But guys like me who didn't have any FAA rating or any other real skill set other than the drones that we had flown from day one, It was tough. It was tough for us. A lot of us got laid off, and I wasn't really expecting it. And then, so I didn't really have I was comfortable with Northrop, so I didn't have a exit strategy in place, really, so to speak. And then COVID happened. That really impacted things. It made it very difficult. So we ended up getting our layoff on the May 8th of this year.
Yeah, wow.
Right, smack dab in the middle of the COVID crisis. And
right.
A lot of companies that had openings when I first started looking, they kind of went on a hiring freeze, especially the smaller companies.
Yeah. So then how did you end up with your current role with SurvTech Solutions then? How did that all manifest?
I basically shotgun blasted my resume to everybody and anybody. I don't know how many.
Well, how many hours of flight did you end up accruing over all that time?
Let's see. I think I ended up a little over 3,000. I think I was at 3,200 as an AVO. I know Northrop Grumman ended up putting out a final list of who's who among hunter operators, and I was in the top 5 about every category as far as launch and recoveries and all that. But that happens when you've been with I was on hunter for almost 20 years. So
wow. So I'm sure that had to look good when you're submitting, shotgun blasting that resume to so many different companies.
Oh, for sure it did. And I got, there was a lot of interest, but like I said, the timing of it couldn't have been any worse as far as COVID happening.
Yeah.
There were a couple of the bigger companies that were interested, but as the COVID kept going, and then also the drawdown in Afghanistan was a big impact on things as well. It kind of flooded the market with people that had skill sets like I had. So I guess I was fortunate in falling into the opportunity that I presented with.
Yeah. So what exactly do you do there at SurvTech Solutions? What are some of the drone missions that you get to manage now?
I'm basically the overall department head for the drone or UAV department. Every mission that comes through that we utilize for the either LiDAR payload or the imagery. The company is growing. When I came on, it's fairly small. It's still, to me, is small coming from Northrop Grumman. And the drones are small too. I always call them my toys.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of the DJI M600s that we utilize those more than anything else, just because their reliability and their durability. But we have a Harris Aerial H6 hybrid. That's our workhorse. If we have a pretty substantial mission, then we utilize that. But it's a gas electric hybrid.
Oh wow!
That one we're able to fly 1.5 hours to 1:45 minutes per flight. Now to you and me, that probably doesn't sound like much.
Yeah.
The 100 days when we were flying 12+ hours, but for these little commercial drones that fall in the 107, that's quite a bit of flight time.
And so, what sort of missions are you doing? Is it typically like mapping, surveying, 3D modeling, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I'd say about 95% of our jobs are all utilizing the LiDAR payload. And for those that aren't familiar with LiDAR, it's almost like aerial sonar.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. We fly over an area, we collect points approximately. With the LiDAR we're getting about 100 points per square meter, depending on how fast we're flying, how low we're flying. But what we do with that then is because there's so many light points that hit the ground, it can actually penetrate into the vegetation. And with LiDAR, you're able to identify the vegetation within your point cloud and actually extract that to see what the surface area looks like underneath the vegetation.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful technology for sure.
Oh yeah, you get a much greater understanding of what the topography of the land is, especially in heavily vegetated areas. You would never get that just from aerial imagery.
Right. No, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Creating a drone program is exciting, but also challenging. From rules and regulations to extensive training, you've got your work cut out. That's why you'll need a team of experts by your side. Consortiq is here to help you achieve your goals, develop your program, and get the data you need. Learn more at consortic.com today. Use the code unmanned_podcast on our contact form to get your risk-free consultation. and enter to win a DJI Mavic Mini 2. Consortiq, here to take your drone program to new heights.
You want to tell people actually what you're doing right now, Mark? Because I find it pretty awesome and interesting considering everything going on with COVID-19 and just your role. Yeah, I think what you're doing is a great example of just the flexibility and adaptability and the resilience of this industry. So you kind of want to share what you're up to right now.
Yeah, well, right now I'm heading up to New Jersey. I'm going to be flying a power substation up there. And basically what we're doing with that is they want to see what the sag of the lines are. And then I believe they're in the process of doing some modifications and upgrades to the power station. With us flying the LiDAR, we can get a very accurate example, a 3D model of what the substation looks like. And we can even, I think within 3 centimeters is what my processing guy, he's comfortable saying. I know he's better than that, but he always gives himself a little buffer.
There you go.
But yeah, so basically what we're doing is we'll generate that 3D model and then present it to the client, and then they can determine what they need to do and what actions they need to take to complete their upgrade.
Because you're driving from Florida to New Jersey, right? Do you ever run into any issues with COVID-19 travel restrictions, or how do you work around all of that?
I haven't yet. Right when I was first coming on, there was one of the guys, he went to book a hotel online, and because we're from Florida, and Florida was one of the hot spots for the first wave for sure. He ran into issues of the hotel didn't want to give him a room because he was from Florida.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've only been with the company since the first week of June, and I haven't really ran into any restrictions as far as that goes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Knock on wood. Hopefully the second wave doesn't change things.
Yeah. Well, Mark, got a sort of 2-part quick question here for you. Where do you see the future of this industry going? And then more personally, where do you see the future of Mark Bickel going? Do you see yourself staying within like the commercial UAV side, or are you itching to get back to like the military operations overseas?
I'll tackle the second part first. I'm actually very happy that I switched over to the commercial side, and I kind of have the layoff to thank for that, because it kind of forced my hand. Like I said, I was very comfortable with what I was doing with Northrop. It took that layoff to kind of push me into deciding what I wanted to do in my future. So far, I've loved it, and the experience that I've got. UAV in the commercial side is fairly new, and the Part 107, it's just, I have so much experience and so much knowledge as far as from standardization and instructing, that it's kind of helped me as far as setting up this company that I'm working for on the right track.
Yeah, if there's anybody I can think of who'd be successful in doing that, I would definitely point to you. So I could definitely see that.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a couple other guys that I've known from Hunter that have been approached by companies, and that's exactly what they're looking for. Is they're looking for the guys that have that sort of experience in order to kind of create their drone program and make it to what it should be. Because if you look at the 107, I mean, pretty much anybody can study it. There's no flight requirement for it. So as long as you can memorize some stuff from a book and you're good at taking a test, anybody can get a 107.
Yep.
But it's the guys like us that have the real world experience and the knowledge that are able to go in and ensure that these commercial companies are doing things by the book. And that's one of the biggest things with the FAA is, it's scary having manned aviation and then just a bunch of cowboys out there.
Yeah.
But as far as from a 107 standpoint, it's the guys like us with the experience that we've got, making sure that there's operating procedures for companies and making sure that they're following risk assessments and a lot of the things that the people who, like, for instance, my company, it's a surveying company. They don't really know much about drones, and other than what they've kind of learned on their own. It's easy for people just to say, hey, we need to get this job done, let's go do it, and not really take into consideration all the background stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, the pre-mission planning, the standardization.
Sure, exactly, exactly.
And it's funny because from our side of things, that just is all natural. That's sort of what we quote unquote grew up with.
Exactly.
So, I know for me, when I made that transition to the commercial side, I was like, well, wait a minute, you guys don't do this already? Like, this is
There's been things that have been frustrating
Yeah.
for sure. But you know, it's just part of the game. And the other part of that question is where you see this technology going.
Yeah.
I think with drones and what I've seen in the past 3 or 4 years, man, that's like we're at the tip of the iceberg right now.
Yeah.
Like this stuff is huge. And as more and more people gain that experience, and the FAA kind of understands that, okay, there's a place for these UAVs in the national airspace, you know, it becomes more and more of a, I guess, a natural thing, a natural progression, so to speak. I look at the waivers that they have now. You know, 3 years ago, you would have been waiting 7, 8, 9 months to get a waiver for, you know,
Like a nighttime flight or
nighttime operations. Yeah, I got our company nighttime operations waiver. It took me 6 days. That was unheard of a couple of years ago. Beyond visual line of sight, like that's starting to become a thing now with utility inspections and you know, like Amazon with the delivery service. I mean, there's just so much that's going to be going on out there. Even looking at like Uber Air. You know, they're talking about human transport with drones.
Yeah, I've seen some of their prototype models at like some of these trade shows, and it's pretty wild. It looks like something from the future, but
yeah,
it's on its way. It's on its way.
Exactly. I think definitely getting in on the commercial side, like you were saying, if I missed the military, I missed some things of it. Like I said, I'm a very structured person.
Yeah.
So the military was just a natural fit for me, and you know, military contracting was just pretty much the same thing. But as the commercial side of things start growing, it's good that I got into it when I did, because now I'm going to have that much more experience, and I'm basically going to have like the dual military side of it as well as the commercial side of it.
Yeah. And I think it wouldn't be crazy to think that we're actually on our way to where unmanned aviation stateside actually becomes more structured and standardized than even manned operations.
Oh, for sure.
Think of it, like if we have Amazon, UPS, Google, all these massive companies flying thousands and thousands of drones, like that is going to take standardization efforts that we haven't even seen before.
Yeah, just even looking at it from outside of an aerial application, look at how technology has changed with automation with every other industry out there. When you talk about factories now, instead of having assembly line workers, you have robots that handle most 90% of the thing.
Yeah.
And it's just natural that aviation was going to go that way. You know, being on the forefront of things, you know, the guys like me and you that have been doing this stuff for years now, we can assist and ensure that this happens in a safe and very progressive way.
Yeah. No, it's exciting to be like the cutting edge of this, to really help be like one of the, I guess, quote unquote, founding fathers, you know, of unmanned aviation. It's pretty cool.
Sure, definitely.
Well, Mark, I got one last question for you, since I know you're traveling, you got your family with you, you got a lot of stuff going on, but we used to joke that you were going to invest in some property and build a home in Afghanistan. It basically became like your second home. Do you ever like wake up just wishing you were still there sometimes? Like, do you ever have dreams about it, anything like that?
Oh, yeah, well, I do miss it to some degree, but now, you know, I've got my daughter, she's 2.5 now. Like even just little trips out of state now are harder than trips that I took for 6-7 months overseas at a time.
Yeah.
So because I have more of a family connection stateside now, I don't miss it as much. I miss the people for sure.
Yeah.
But I enjoy what I'm doing, and I enjoy the time that I have with family now. So
yeah.
And you know, I'm getting old now. I'm 40 now, so
yeah.
Priorities change over the years.
That's right. Well, Mark, if there's one thing I do miss about Afghanistan and being there with you, it was I think it was what, Monday nights you'd make pizzas for everybody. You'd make your pizzas. Yeah.
And, you know, the funny thing is that little pizzazz rotary pizza cooker, I've got one at my house in Florida. I still do homemade pizzas. Oh yeah.
Well, maybe next time if we're ever in the same area at the same time, you could hook me up with a homemade Bickel pizza.
There you go.
Alrighty. Well, hey Mark, it's been such a blast getting to reconnect with you, to have you on the show to share some about your experience about what SurvTech is doing and, your thoughts to the future. So with that, do you have any closing comments?
Not really. Just, man, I appreciate everything, all the support that everybody's been giving us. And it's an exciting chapter of my life that I'm getting into. And I'm just blessed, really. And, I've got you and everybody that's been in my past to thank for that.
Yeah, I can say the same thing. Well, thanks, Mark, and thanks for listening to this week's episode of Unmanned Uncovered. This episode was brought to you by Consortiq, an organization purpose to help you and your organization fly drones safely. Want to learn more about how drones can improve your business? Reach out to me and my partners at Consortiq, and we'll show you the way. Unmanned Uncovered is available for download on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Simplecast, so regardless of where you go, Unmanned Uncovered can go there with you. To truly spread the good that drones are doing across the industry, I need your help, so please share this podcast across all spectrums of your social media network and help me show the world everything drones can do. That's all for this week. Stay tuned for next week's edition. And until next time, safe flying, everyone.